I was in Paris when I was a young boy. I spent most of my life there. After the war, I went back there to work. I came back to the UK when I left the Navy, went down to Cornwall, met people like Barbara Hepworth and Milne and such like, all the great painters. What was down there in the 1950s and such like, you know. I've always painted in France. Recently I've been working in Provence a lot, tremendous amount in Provence. I love the colour, I love the heat, etc. in the mountains. I've painted very, very little in England. I suppose it was because my grandmother was French, I suppose this connection was there. And so France has always fascinated me because it was such a large country and I could see through the trees. Here it was too dense, too green, too dense. I decided that I would be a marine painter, and I studied under Julius Olson, the great painter in New Ridge down in St Ives in the great days. One day Mr Ridge said to me, what are we going to do today, Mr Hancock? And I said, what do you want me to do? So he said, no, I want you to ask me what to do now. I said, why? He said, you've gone beyond me. And I was rather flattered about this because he was president of the, he belonged to the Royal Society of Marine Artists. And one day in my workshop, I thought, I'll paint them a marine painting. And I did it for me, purely for me, not for gain, not for anything at all whatsoever. And one or two dealers in London wanted to buy it, providing I put a boat in it. And I said, if I wanted to put a effing boat in that picture, I would have put one in. And they offered me a lot of money. I would not sell it. So I decided to keep it. And there it is, hanging up in my wall, because I think it's the best thing of a marine painting I've done for a very, very long time. It'll keep there until I die, until my dear wife decides to flog it when she's in old age. I was fascinated by the First World War. I had an Uncle Ted. He used to come and see us. He was in the First Warwick, so I think it was about 12 of them left, and he'd only have to have 2 pints, and he'd be over the top again, you know, his eyes would blaze, and he'd have a broom, and over the top, and us kids used to cower. So I wasn't interested in the Second World War, I'd been through that, but the First World War fascinated me a lot. But I didn't want to paint pictures of goriness in the trenches. I didn't want to paint, you know, battle scenes and all like that. It's all been done by Edwardian illustrations, illustrated London News, far better than me. I painted a picture of a chap he was, with an arm in the sling, and he was in the trenches, setting up. He wasn't going to die, and his mate was lighting a fag for him, and I called it Woodbine's Willie's Boys. And a very funny thing, when these were shown, it was on a travelling exhibition, and there was a charming young lady came in the 20s, a baby. And she turned around to me, she said, Mr Hancock, she said, what a great pity that nobody ever told them that smoking was bad for their health. And I thought to myself, my God, their expectation of life was about 5 minutes, you know. And I said to her, I said, if you was in war, if you was in a battle, if you was in it, you'd smoke, you'd grab onto anything. But you couldn't see it. And I thought, well, probably I've wasted my time doing all these paintings. And they all sold, bar 2, which I kept to myself, to my wife. It's a great pity that they're all scattered all over the world now. They should be in one collection. There's about 30 paintings, I think. Paint what you want to paint, like me with marine paintings. It's like the one there, Giverny. And I didn't want to copy Monet. You can't possibly ape Monet at all whatsoever. You can't ape anybody. And I just saw these 2 boats. I was fascinated by the light more than anything else coming from the trees and the backlighting. It was never, shall we say, a commercial picture. It was never meant to be. But I painted it because I saw it and I liked it. I loved the light, the shallow water. That's how I saw Giverny. I painted 2 3, I think, in the garden. And I'd done it, and I didn't want to do it anymore. His famous Japanese bridge, and it's all been done, and it's been done so much better by the master himself, you know, so you can't carry on. This is a sketch of Provence I did in situ, and for the camera I'm going to put some paint out, and I'm going to start a painting, a rough oil painting, which can be used and built up afterwards. So don't let anybody think that you can finish something of great quality in 5 minutes. I will bash you something off in half hour, which probably a lot of dealers would love, but they are Bibles for my own work, for bigger work, which you will see probably later on in the film. I do about 4 a day of this, in between getting pissed on by my friends. I'd like to stress for any amateur what paints. They got a happy knack of being meanness with their paint. They'll just put on, shall we say, a little dab, and then they start off, and all of a sudden they have to stop because they run out of paint. So you lose the theme at all, and that is a must. Don't be mean, you know, do it. Splash it on, have a go. And once it's hot, you know, blue skies. This is how I work when I'm out painting. Painting's magic, you know. You can't learn it. I paint from top to bottom. I know what I want. I've got it down here, and I just bring the whole picture down. I put as much as I can in. I fill up the canvas to start with, and then I sit back and look at it, and any bits of detail I want to put in or overpaint, then I can do so. There's nothing what I put on now what is going to really hurt that painting. It can be altered, it can be overpainted. It's just basic colour to put something down of that particular scene. You can't fight about with it. When you paint, you're in control of this ruddy brush. The time when he balls everything up, and we all do it, is because the brush is taking command of you. You're not in command of it anymore. It's like being in a runaway car. The brakes have gone. And what you do, you got disaster. And when you start to feel like that, and you know it's going to do, don't try to recover it because you ain't going to do anything else. Bite it off and start again. So if you slam it all in, you know, roughly, then you can look back, and then you can see where it wants pulling out a bit more detail and such like. You see, you have got something there. At this particular stage, you've covered the canvas in. You've got some colour, you've got some planes, you've got a bit of perspective, it don't matter. But you've got something there to work on. So what I'll try and do now is to pick it out. Bring, you know, bits and pieces and all like that. It's what you call tarting up. It's bright, it's a hot day, and that is Provence to me. It's sincerely painted. It's spontaneous, not pissed about with. Whether critics say it's crap, I don't care. I'm not interested. But I know very well that on the wall with a frame would look great, better than a crap bloody print, you know, when you do I'll see your father and all like that. At least it's honest. And that's all you can say about it. I did a painting very roughly for the Reverend John Hawthorne for Christmas. You know, most because he got no money to buy art, so I give him one occasionally for Christmas. And I decided to do the same at Tetbury Church, semi-abstract. So I got this huge canvas, and I just hired for what I wanted to do with purely colour. Tone, colour, diffusion, and light, because I love light. I just got this inspiration of light, through wood, trees hanging down, and water. The one what you see in the hall at the moment, I gave to my dear wife anyway, because I thought nobody'd want it and everybody does at the moment.
Yeah. Perfect, absolutely perfect. The strange thing is with paintings like this, they look completely different at different times of the day, don't they? In the morning light, it looks really different from the evening light.
Yeah,
It's one of its beauty. It's like it's constantly changing.
Yeah, it'll never date. Really. It'll never date.
It's so different from all your other work. Did you enjoy doing it?
Yeah. Yeah.
I certainly enjoy having it on the wall.
I know you would. Told me my wife, she wanted to keep them, I want to flog them, and I still have to buy the champagne and keep the dog and everything else. And so I have to work harder.
It's a compliment that I want to keep them.
I suppose it is. Is it because I'm getting older and you think, well, I must get as many as I can now?
Well, I haven't got enough yet.
I know, you said that before.
I know. Keep painting.
Since then, my work, since that one day, I changed. The figurative, it's not abstract, but I adore colour. I absolutely, but colour has to be put right. You know, it's like if you have a Savile Row suit, you can't, if you spend this much money on a suit, you can't have a Woolworth shirt or tie with it. So when you paint, even if you paint in colour, it has to be together. It has to be part. You can't use it willy-nilly, else it'll run away with you. And you can still have figurative work, and you can still have this vast amount of colour and depth in it. Not easy. God, it's not easy. How many times you looked at the sky and you see all these greens and pinks and purples, and people have said, if anybody painted that, they'd never believe it. And that is the lie. Paint what you see. Don't tone it down. If it's bright red, paint it bright red. And that's what the lie is. I see Provence as hot, acrid, it's got red ochre soil, it's got lavender, it's got herbs, it's got olives, it's got wine, and it's bright. It's blue skies, it's bright. I don't see it as Cézanne saw it. I see it much brighter, you know. Probably the colours might be slightly exaggerated, but not to me. I just paint purely from the tube, you know, mix it, and I don't tone it down. That's how I see it. God knows where I'm going next. I don't know. I always say this new style will last for about 20 pictures. When I feel that they are getting hackneyed, they are getting repetitive, then a bit of time to change again. Like Picasso did, like all the impressionists did. Because if you don't, they all look the same. You know, well, this stereotype, you know, you've got to move on. If you're going to be a painter, move on for God's sake, you know. Don't rest on your laurels. There's a big world out there, and see it differently. And as you get older, you see it differently. I mean, when you were young, you drank plonk, you know, so grim, you know. It would fetch the paint off the car. But as you get older, you get more discerning. You know, buy a bit better wine and such like. You enjoy your food a bit more, and you take your time. You know, it's like making love. You know, you have a bull at the gate, and if not, as experience tells you that it gets better. And I think that's what it is with painting. You have to look at it again, review yourself, and say, where am I going? And I think that's what it's all about. And if you don't do that, then I think you get complacency, and you think you are good. And a lot of people think they're brilliant. I don't think I'm brilliant. I just have to go on. Only time will ever tell whether I'm any bloody good. I have people say to me, when they see this new work, you've gone mad. Hancock's gone in his dotage now. I'm 75 now. He's gone in his dotage. Why has he left all the rest of the stuff alone, you know? And then I have a friend in Paris, Frederick. He's vice president of Paris Salon, and he said my work was the work of a master. And he paid me a great compliment here. He was a great painter. It's the work of a young man. And I knew that from then on, I was on the right track. And my wife picked me up today very, very kindly. and I signed them B Hancock, and I started to date them. First time in my life. And she said, you haven't put the date right. So, right, I have. And I put 2001. 2, treble O, and 1. So no, you don't put it like that. And I thought that right, it's going to stay like that. So that will have to be stay. So the next one, if I live long enough, it'll be 2002. But in years to come, they'll have to figure that out, you know. I've always said that art dealers are like second-hand car dealers are an apology to a second-hand car dealer. It's sad, but this is how I feel. And at 75, I've been a professional artist all my life, and I've earned a bob or two, you know, and such like, I've survived. I've sold my work, I've sold it at good prices. Probably worth a lot more, I don't know, any time will never tell whether I'm any good. Probably half the bloody country's never heard of me. But one day they'll pick me up, I suppose. You know, probably, you know. I've always threatened to write this book, The Life and Death of a Piss Artist, because that's how they refer to you. I've lived in Temporary 4.5 bloody years. I used to go to work, go home, and nobody really interested in bloody talk to. And all of a sudden, at the blue, someone said to me, there's an art dealer going to open. And I thought, oh no, shit. I said, not a bloody art dealer, we've got bloody antique dealers around here, and such like. But I think having talked to Trevor, that he has got a soul. I think he's a bit different to Cork Street and such like, and Bruton Street. I don't think he's that type. He wouldn't have his old woofer here sitting here anyway if he wasn't got a soul. But I think Trevor he just loves pictures. I think that's the paintings.
What I like about your stuff, Ken, is the fact that you never stop still. You can look at the devastation, those First World War pictures you did, and you'd absolutely never believe that they were the work of the man who painted those joyous Provençal scenes. And then I come round to your house, and what have you got there? Just a superb abstract, which would compare with any of the New York artists of the 50s. And so your style never stops changing. You're always ready to experiment and to try something new. Yeah. Your work's like the work of a young artist. You never think that your roots went back to the Newlyn School, right through the St Ives, working at Nuremberg with Laura Knight.
I know.
It's an amazing long career.
A long career.
And as for that stunning view of Monet's garden at Giverny, it's just absolutely amazing. And they're all stunning, but all in a completely different way. There's plenty of great British 20th century artists, and Ken's going to be amongst the foremost of them.
I've had exhibitions in London, and they've said to me when I was about 65, did you take this up when you retired, Mr. Hancock? Piss off. You know, God almighty, who am I talking about? And they treat it as a hobby. You go to a bank and you say, look, I want £1,000. What do? I'm an artist. You've got no more chance of flying the bloody area. Go to Paris or France. No ball game. You're just more important than doctors or solicitors. Most people think that I've come from the bloody moon. They say, oh, we've never met an artist before. We've met a football player. They give those medals and accolades and OBEs and all like that. But you don't get many artists what's made Sir and Lord today. Or you see people in the media and such like, and they come up in the street and they want autographs off them, you know. If you got a famous painter, they'd pass you in the street, they wouldn't know who you were. Can't blame them for that, I suppose, really. We're not what you call they only see us in sandals, long hair, taking drugs and shagging all the bloody models, don't they? You know, that's all they look at. You don't hear us very much getting into trouble, really, a great deal. You hear of, I don't know, vicars interfering with choir boys, you hear doctors interfering with patients, you hear politicians devious and everything else going about. No, you don't hear a great deal about us. Occasionally you get one, forgers, and they forge a couple and get found out after all the dealers have creamed it all off, and that eats a bit of titillation to the media, you know. Oh, the cheeky bagger.
Ken, how many Picassos have you got?
2 at the moment, till I knock a few more off. To get the old paper, I just dyed it in tea, but that's nothing new. Any great forger will do that. But it looks good. They're not forgers, they crimp, because my dear wife liked them, and they are listed anyway. But I suppose some scrupulous dealer will get hold of them in years to come and flog them.
Well, they're not signed, are they?
No,
They're definitely Hancock.
We all paint for a certain amount for money. We have to do. I mean, so we don't do for charity. Every artist what sits down and paints, he doesn't do it. We all do it for the love, because it's a driving force. You can't stop painting. But we have to sell to put bread on the table, to buy materials and all like that. We have to do it. And we have to sell. It's not for the masses, never will be. They'll destroy it, you know, every revolution they've had. They've burned pictures and books, you know, God, no. And you can't expect them to do. I think today it's getting better. The children are being educated more to art. They begin to understand it more. In my younger days, luckily my father was a great painter, and he saw potential in me. I was lucky, but there was a lot of kids about at the age of 12 and 14, what with had the arses hanging out, and hadn't got across the bed, and they would have made magnificent painters. Because they was not in the right time, the right space of time, and they was kicked out and pushed up chimneys to sweep them, and they had no chance to go into art school or to paint art, because the masses said, it's a load of rubbish, get out and work. Most lads, after 2 or 3 A-levels and old enough to get into bloody art schools today. In this country, they don't think it's a profession. And of course, you haven't got A-levels and in maths and English and etc., etc. You're on a scrap heap if you haven't got this. But there's a lot of kids wanting brilliant at art. And you see it now. And they're still not given a chance in this country. It's a lonely life. You've got to realise the heat of the kitchen's too hot, get out. But unfortunately, when you're born to this, you can't get out. You keep on coming back to it. You can't give it up, like a cancer. It's part and part of you. It comes before anything else. I hate it because of that one reason. It takes you over, whether you're good or bad. And even now, if I feel myself, I'll paint some crap in the daytime, I can't wait to wipe it off. You can't live on a reputation or a name, etc., etc. You have to do the best you can. You can't fudge it. When kings and queens are forgotten and prime ministers are forgotten, I, and many more of us, will leave something behind. And they'll say, if there's antique roadshows going, somebody will hawk a painting around and say, is this any good? I found it in the attic or in the garage. It was propping up a window to keep the rain out by the name of Hancock. But your name will be mentioned. And if you're very good, they'll put you in museums with guard dogs and people to look after them for you. And this is only supply and demand. This is only what the powers to be of money of accountants saying, well, we can make a bob or two and we'll hype him up. And this is what happens. And that's the tragedy of art. When you're young, you know, you think you've got a gift of creation. I still do, actually. My father, being Edwardian or Victorian as he was, you say you'll never be able to paint as long as you got all in your arse, you know. You couldn't draw your own wages, but he used to tell all his mates, you know, I was reasonably all right. And you say, if you go in the Tate or the Birmingham Art Gallery and you go for the front door and come out the back, and if you still think you're good, you either are very, very good or you're telling a lot of lies and you're kidding yourself. Well, we try to be individual. My dear Kate says to me, you are different. I begin to think I am. We lost the real, true sense of it all, what it all stands for, purely for the love of doing it.
try